Hello and welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Optics in Action, where we spotlight leaders with vision and clarity. And I am so excited to have Jason Krantz with us today. He is the founder of Labor Titan. Jason and I got to know each other over the past couple of years, and he is doing some really, really cool stuff with data analytics and working with. Well, I'm going to let Jason tell us a little bit about it. So, Jason, welcome to Optics in Action.
Hey, thanks a ton for having me. I'm glad to be here. I always enjoy our conversations.
Absolutely. So I always like to ask our guests when they first get on, why do you do what you do? I mean,
Yeah.
you started as an entrepreneur now, right? You left the
Mhm.
corporate world, you started this thing.
Yeah.
Why do you do it? What compelled you to do it? And
Yeah.
what gets you up every morning?
People that know me know that I actually genuinely take a lot of pride, and it brings me a lot of joy to help people. It's just something that giving to people and networking, decision making, whatever it is, that's just part of who I am. And one of the things I discovered early in my career was that many people are looking for help, but maybe they're afraid to ask for it. And with a lot of I come up through the ranks in digital transformation was becoming a bigger and bigger thing. And I discovered very early on that there was a lot of power in information, but people didn't really know how to get value out of it. And so I found a nice little opportunity, career opportunity in helping people understand and leverage data and analytics. And I made a career out of that essentially. And I always functioned as an intrapreneur. I always worked very, very, very well in the gray. It was give me an objective, give me the resources to do it, and I'll go figure out how to do it. So entrepreneurship, while it's a new journey, it's really not new. I've been doing it for the better part of 20 years, and I enjoy it because from ambiguity and at times chaos comes opportunity. And I was just, I grew up around entrepreneurs. My dad was an entrepreneur. My mom was one. So it's what I know. And it's just, that central theme of the helping people. And so now it's within the context of helping people make better, faster, more confident decisions, leveraging the power of data and analytics via a structured process.
Yeah. I love it. And that's what we like talking about is people and process and making an impact on people with process, with data, with analytics. Bringing those two things together is how we can impact the world. So
Mhm.
tell us a little bit more about what Labor Titan is and what value you bring to your clients and to the world.
Yeah, well, I think it's important to start with the macro theme. The macro theme is that especially when you go into industries like manufacturing, distribution, construction, healthcare, retail, even, there's a very sizable macro level trend of boomers retiring at a rate, I believe it's 20,000 per day. So you've got a workforce that is getting smaller. You pair that with when you look at, we pay a lot of attention to what are people studying in college and trade schools to try to get a sense of who's going to fill that gap. And one of the things you see is that there's not enough people coming into the workforce to fill those gaps. Now, that's one problem. The other problem is as we saw for manufacturers specifically, supply chain is a major, major problem. So you've got a lot of reshoring and nearshoring initiatives where people want to bring things closer. They want to have just-in-time inventory management, whatever it is. So now you're putting a new structure in place with this overarching macro theme of workforce issues. So now I'm cutting a lot out here, but just cutting straight to it. You're looking at automation and AI and other things to try to fill that gap. But that presents a lot of unique challenges because in order to get a lot of value out of AI, you've got to have systems, you've got to have process, you've got to have great data, you've got to have a workforce that's capable of using it. So you start pairing all of these macro things together and you start seeing for certain industries. Like I said, what we focus on is manufacturing, industrial in general, distribution, construction. These are very sizable challenges that are going to impact what you're going to have to pay people because your supply is getting smaller, and because of all these factors, the demand is getting greater.
Yeah.
So what naturally happens? Economics 101, just go up.
Yeah.
So what I saw is that you've got these slow moving battleships coming, and companies are going to need help understanding this. Now, traditionally, this stuff falls within the realm of a compensation professional, but the reality is, in my research, about 90 and 95% of companies overall do not have compensation professionals. Typically, it falls into the finance team or somebody else that's doing it once a year. and
Yep.
they're not very good at it. That's not an indictment on them, but they're juggling many balls. So how can you possibly be expected to be intelligent in this upcoming talent battle? It's actually here today. Who's going to help these people understand where's the market at today so that you can offer wages and be competitive in the talent battle? And that's really the macro thesis of what we're trying to do. We're taking these things that I did for 15 years in corporate America, and we're just bringing it to this really big opportunity that is staring all of, especially mid-market companies, directly in the face. And they're like, we don't know how to solve this.
Yeah.
That's what we're really trying to do here.
Yeah, that is incredible. And I think you and I were talking previously about the just the mountains of data that are accessible in the world today, right?
Mhm.
There's so much data available. And I love how you talked about that ambiguity and the chaos and
Mhm.
finding opportunity in that to bring clarity and make sense of it all.
Mhm.
And there's no doubt that AI and machine learning and all of these platforms and systems are helping us to find new ways to do that.
Mhm.
So, how do you distill that down into creating value for these companies, for
Yeah.
governmental organizations or companies? You've got the labor data and these macroeconomic things
Yeah.
that you're helping organizations, if I understand correctly, to distill down into actionable insights or things that they can
Yeah.
do in a mid-market company where they may not have had that access to previously,
Yeah.
like a big multinational or something might have had. So how are you helping organizations to create
Yeah.
that?
So as you know me well. I like to make the complex simple. That's where success is made. And so I'll give you a tangible example. Um, a small, I say small, $50 million a year manufacturer comes to us and they say, you know what, we are having a terrible time retaining people, and culture is great. I mean, culture is outstanding. So they're like, we're really baffled as to why we're losing people. And here's the impact on our business that's having. Our turnover has gone up, so our service levels have decreased. Our recruiting costs are going up. Our training costs are going up. All the things that we all know about that come quantifiable impacts on the P&L. But the biggest thing was is he's like, we were putting through price increases and they're getting declined because your service levels have dropped off. So as they come to us, they're like, okay, what are the roles? Give me the 5 roles that are just getting crushed for you. Forklift driver was one of them. I say forklift driver because it seems like, well, forklift driver is a low level job. Probably doesn't seem like it does a whole lot, but like, as I contextualize it, if you don't have a forklift driver, you can't get things into where they need to go. You can't get pallets onto the truck. You can't shut the doors. You can't seal it. You can't generate that invoice. Can't get delivery out on time. So what they didn't know is they said, okay, give us your pay. You're paying, I'm just making a number up for illustrative purposes in this market. They're paying $15 an hour. They think that's pretty good because their survey that they got, which is 2 years old, says that, well, $14 an hour is pretty good. What they don't realize is during that same time period, wages for that particular job in that market went up to $20 an hour. Now, that's a very, very price sensitive role. They will leave for $1 an hour in many cases, a quarter an hour sometimes, depending on where you're at. So now if you're paying $15 an hour and you think you're competitive and the market's at 20, you see how that information gap creates a situation where you're just not going to
Right,
win.
right,
And you
right.
have a problem that you don't understand the root of the problem. So this is
That's
where
right.
we come in and we say, okay, understand where you're at. For your knowledge, this market across all industries, because you can't look at just manufacturing, because that job can go into distribution very easily, or warehousing or whatever it is. They're paying $20 an hour. Now we've given them the information that they need to make an informed decision, and it's up to them on what they choose to do with it. We're not saying
Right,
this is what you do, but we're advisors. And so this is where the 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 analytics and the data gives them the information they need to make better decisions.
right,
And then you choose. You might decide 20 is too much. I can't do that, but I can move it up to 18 and I can offer maybe a sign-on bonus
right,
or whatever it is. So this is the big difference because a lot of times, especially in manufacturing, they're leaning on surveys, association. We do a lot to help
right.
associations give their members up-to-date information. We update our numbers every month. So we're always giving people that pulse on where is the market at today for this job at this level in this market. versus a survey, it's going to be updated once a year. By the time it's published, it's probably 9 months old. And with the rate, getting back to these macro themes I was talking about, wages are moving very quickly and there has been a lot of instability, but their intelligence hasn't caught up yet. So basically what we're doing is we're removing that time lag, removing the friction in getting those numbers. And then that's where like we have an accelerator service where it's like, we'll actually do it for you if you give us your jobs.
Yeah.
So the idea is to make it easy so you can focus on what you do.
Yeah.
There's that whole theme of removing friction in the
Oh,
in
I
the
love it. I love the way you just articulated that as you and I imagine that this is incredibly really useful in terms of these skill sets, these jobs with skills that are highly transferable. So a fork truck driver, that certification, that skill set, being able to drive down the street of of an industrial park, and every one of those buildings has fork truck drivers. And
bingo.
so those highly transferable skills, and as you mentioned, I think manufacturing, construction,
Yeah,
distribution, some of those key areas, I envision that this is really powerful for companies to have real-time data or as close to real-time data as they're able to get. And I can definitely see how that gap in the past caused problems, especially with the rapid wage changes and dynamics of the market over the past few years. That's an incredibly powerful tool that it sounds like you've created and are helping organizations with. So
yeah.
I love
It,
it.
it well, it's interesting too because you don't need a specialized skill set. Typically, this is something that falls into the realm of a compensation professional. Imagine being an operator. You just want a quick pulse. I just need to know, like today, like in a couple minutes, are our wages competitive? We can do that
Yeah.
on the portal, self-service. And it's that whole idea of there shouldn't be this big lag. I mean, that's how I had success in corporate America, building these capabilities, meeting people where they're at, solving the problems that they have as easily as possible. So, like I always use the joke of that. A lot of people don't care how the flux capacitor works. They just want time travel.
That's right.
I don't care how it works. Just get me back to 1985.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. So it sounds like this is really a big impact and an opportunity for business owners, business leaders in construction, manufacturing. Do you work in governmental as well, or is it primarily sort of those construction, manufacturing, industrial type
Yeah.
of jobs where you're focused? What does your market look like in terms of who you're
Yeah,
helping?
so we do a lot in helping companies understand current market wages, like we just articulated for the private sector. We also do a lot around site selection. So if you're looking to build a new facility, you're looking to move into a new facility, we do the labor shed analysis to understand is that labor pool that you need available, and then what do they pay for the different jobs that you need at the
Yeah.
different levels, and then building understanding of who are you competing with. What are you walking into? Are you walking into a lion's den? Are you walking into a desert, a
Yeah.
labor desert, which is a really big risk. So we help companies understand that. On the private sector, we also help. We are the only company anywhere that does wage forecasting. So as you're looking, a CFO especially, as you're looking to plan out the biggest cost on your P&L, imagine being able to get current benchmarking and then planning for the next 2 years in one spot. Right
Yeah.
now, you can't do that. You're guessing. We are also getting involved in helping governmental workforce development boards develop. They see what we can do, and they're like, we don't have anything that can do this currently, specifically on the wage front. A lot of the demographic data is commoditized through government data. Anybody can go get it and use it, so there's not a lot of differentiation there. Anybody can do that. But it's the wage front where having that current month wages is such a big deal. And they're like, hey, we actually need that for a lot of our projects because right now they're using data that's 2 years old if you're using BLS data.
Yeah.
And during that time frame, oh, by the way, most manufacturing jobs have gone up 10 to 15%. So you got a big disconnect. So
Yeah.
what we say is, again, let's work together, let's partner, and you don't need to have that disconnect.
Yeah.
So it's helping basically anyone anywhere that needs help understanding labor availability, labor sheds, wages, job mix, wage mix, all these different things, which gets under that macro theme of workforce, which I don't know a company or an industry today that is not challenged in some capacity by workforce.
100%. What do you see as the future of your organization? If you look 5 to 10 years out, how do you see the your organization, your product, your technology? How do you see it evolving over the next 5 years or so?
Yeah, absolutely. We do a lot where we listen to our customers. So like right now, our early customers gave us a lot of great feedback. They're like, this is really great, but what would be really great is if I could just put in my address, drop a pin, it gives me a drive time, and then just tells me the wages. And we're building that right now
That's
because again,
fantastic.
it's just like tell us what you need. And so this is a politician's answer to say, I don't know, because we need to listen to our customers and what they're gonna say that they want.
No, I,
Because
I think that's a fantastic answer. I think there's a lot of entrepreneurs who could learn a lot from exactly that answer you just gave. That listening to customers, listening to the market to understand what their needs are, and then marrying that up or combining that with some level of vision. I mean,
yeah,
the fact that the stuff that you've already built demonstrates your ability to have some vision about the future, have some vision about where things are going. You see these macroeconomic trends
mhm,
of needing certain types of labor that don't exist and maybe aren't existing if you look at the data that's
yeah,
happening in universities, and then you come out at the end of it and say, all right, we've got a vision of where we're going and how we create value. Now let's listen to our customers, let's listen to the market to see how do we adapt our product and
mhm,
technology to get there. So I love how you've married those two things together,
well, thank you.
and the value you're creating. So Jason, if is there some way that people can get in contact with you? Can they learn more about Labor Titan? If a business owner is interested in learning more about it or
Yeah,
finding out more about it, do they contact somebody? Do they check out your website? How do people get to learn more?
yeah, so I'd say the first thing is go to labortitan.com, join our mailing list. You can contact us via a form there. Follow me on LinkedIn. I'm not as active on LinkedIn as I used to be, but I'm still pretty active. And at the same time, we do a lot of things where what I encourage people is that a lot of what we do does not require a massive investment. In many cases, as I've found, the turnover and we can do for most mid-sized companies a project for the cost of turnover cost of one person. So it's not this huge cost where you look at risk return and the ROI on that. This is stuff you probably should be doing anyway to win the talent battle. It's actually we designed it to be very easy to access to that central theme of friction, right? Because you go to some of these bigger players, they have, by my biased opinion, an inferior product that's vastly more expensive. So we've really designed this really for mid-market. You know, that's the sweet spot, and manufacturing. That is my personal sweet spot. I spent a lot, like I said, virtually my entire career in manufacturing and distribution. So I understand the nuance of that industry very, very, very intimately. I mean, injection molding, metals manufacturing, you name it in the manufacturing space. I probably had some part of it. Food manufacturing. So I've walked plenty of plant floors and understand quite intimately the nuance of that industry.
Well, thank you very much, Jason. And this has been a pleasure having you on this
Likewise.
podcast to chat about and learn about what Labor Titan's doing, how you're creating value, and the people that it can impact. And I think a lot of folks in our audience could really benefit from really looking at their labor pool, looking at their labor shed, and figuring out where's it going and how do they navigate that market in the near to mid-term. So, and maybe even longer term. So thank you again, Jason, for being on this episode of Optics in Action. We appreciate it and have an amazing week.
You too, my friend.